Hello， 大家好，我係 Ricky 啊。今日好高興咧嚟到一個好特別嘅地方，就係鏡頭前面嘅 Doncaster Secondary。一陣間咧，我要咗校長做一個訪問喎。大家想問佢咩問題咧？
It's an interesting thing about rumours. You wonder where the truth of the rumour sits and lies. No, I can say with great honesty that we've never knocked on a door. But we do have some really stringent enrolment policies and processes. What we have to do though is trust parents to be honest with us when we're looking at enrolments. And once they are and we go through that process, then we happily embrace an enrolment. So I've had parents say to me that you'll knock on my door and check my enrolment, and so I guess that's where the rumour starts. Not the case. No, we'll work with our community and our parents, and we understand that it's difficult sometimes to get a position, a residential position in the East Doncaster area, and it's becoming more difficult. But no, we won't knock on doors. Yeah, great question, great question. I think our focus over a long period of time is to be a better school. And then when you think deeply about what it is to be a better school, then you're going to spend a whole lot of time on academic and the essence, the core business of teaching and learning. But I think you're also going to spend a lot of time on what it means to be a better school so that you educate the whole child. And by doing so, if you just take the academic aside for one stage, you're thinking about finding passion areas for students and developing them. And whether that's in the performing arts, whether that's in the visual arts, whether that's in student leadership, whether that's as part of one of the 40 clubs that we have in the library club or the environmental club. What I think a great school does is offers avenues for all students to be able to find a level of success, a level of, say, pathway development, but also within that, and I'll get back to the academic, the bedrock of the school, the core business is academic. And so you talk about the journey. Our journey for a long time has been to understand that academic success comes about because of high quality teaching and learning. And so our focus for the last 20 years has been on how to develop high quality teaching and learning. And that's something that we spend a lot of time on day in, day out. High quality teachers, high quality teaching and learning. And I think that together has formed the narrative of the college, certainly in the last 15 years. That's a great question. Yes, we do. We did need to renovate our sports facilities. We needed to do quite a lot of work, and in the last 10 years we've spent over $3 million renovating what we call our sports precinct. I'm also really proud that in that precinct, that after school hours it's used by a number of sporting teams and community teams, so that the wider community gets the great joy of using our facilities to the betterment. In terms of our sports program, we do very well. We have continually, year after year, winning the school swimming sports in the region and the athletics in the region, and we have a number of teams that have moved to state finalists. So there's no doubt that by having better facilities, better training facilities, better options for students, that also has moved through, then having better outstanding results with our sports swimming teams. Well, I think that's, I sort of partially answered that previously in a sense. I think if you're educating the whole child, then you understand that, well, the important essence of academic education, of learning, will focus through and funnel through those academic outlets. It's also about things like teaching teachers how to, teaching students, should I say, how to learn. Teaching students the benefit of learners, because as people leave East Doncaster, we hope sincerely that they'll be lifelong learners. And that their learning won't stop when they leave here, but as they reach tertiary education, as most of our students do, and as they reach professions throughout there, we think that really well-equipped citizens will be lifelong learners. And that doesn't, as I mentioned before, necessarily always equate to just academic success. Lifelong learning has a social and a moral component. And I think it's really important to think about those aspects as you're developing young people, and they're very malleable as they're growing up. And so, we're in a very privileged position to work with families on how best to develop our young people. Yeah, and again, that is an excellent question. And I mentioned in our previous discussions about the multicultural sort of basis of Melbourne. And I think this school is really a snapshot of what Melbourne can be at its best and is at its best. We have over 43 nationalities represented at our school in some way. So as you can imagine, with 43 nationalities, you've got a number of different sort of religious, clearly, but also nationalistic backgrounds coming together in this melting pot, all under the banner of EDSC and all under the banner of being a Victorian and Australian state government school. Do our students mix socially well? I think they do. There's no doubt that when students enter and feel comfortable, that is sometimes within their own nationality or ethnicity as they just trying to develop the boundaries of the school. What we encourage them to do wholeheartedly is to break free of those boundaries and really embrace what it is to be a holistic school. And so yes, that means cultures mixing. That means hearing different religious viewpoints and being very diversified in that. It also means socially mixing. It means a mixing of mind and thought as well as anything else. It constantly amazes me, I've got to say, as you walk through the yard when you see 1,600 students culturally mixing, physically mixing, just generally how well that's done. So, I think the school takes great credit, but I think also our community takes great credit. We are, in East Doncaster and Doncaster area, I think we are a community that generally embraces these concepts. And schools often will reflect what is happening within a community. And so I think that while the school takes credit, as I said, I think credit goes to our wider community and the parents within our community that seem to embrace these aspects. When you say programs, not necessarily as formal as that, but we do a lot with students transitioning into the school. And I guess we have a number of layers. First of all, there's the obvious transition when students move in from primary school or from younger settings into Year 7. And we do a lot of work to try and make that transition successful because we realise how important that is. Obviously, students moving from generally smaller primary schools to the big secondary school, really daunting sort of challenge, isn't it? So we do a lot in that sphere. We also, on the next level, try and welcome all the students as they come in other year levels. And so, for us, predominantly that becomes, say, Year 9, 10, 11, the students entering our school to embrace the VCE system down the track. And so, yeah, there are a number of strategies we undertake to try and make those students first feel welcome, because I think that's pretty important, but then just to feel like they're supported and to make their families feel like they're part of our community. And again, clearly what we do works generally well, and I'm not saying that there's never exceptions, but clearly what we do generally works well, and there is this ecosystem at our school that seems to be supportive, and that families know where to go if there is an issue, and that students know where to go if there is an issue. And I would say, just by level of evidence of that the outcomes you get are generally a result of students feeling safe and secure and supported, that's underpinned or overpinned by a level of support with the relationship between the school and families. So there's this cocoon that wraps up the students in these transition phases. Yeah, over the years we've had a number of systems when it's come to this. We have had a formal buddy system where Year 9 students will pair up with incoming Year 7 students. We are moving a little way away from that. One of the things I will say that always keeps me gets me a little bit emotional is that when our students first arrive in Year 7 on their very first day at the school, as they sit down to their chair, they find a handwritten note from a Year 12 student wishing them all the best and offering them words of wisdom. It's a very touching thing to do. And to sort of finish that circle at the end of the year, we have our Year 7 students write a handwritten note to our Year 12 students wishing them all the best, with their examinations, so that you find that there's this straight supportive network that extends from our Year 7 to our Year 12 systems. But getting back, I guess, to the point of the question, being a very big school with over 1,600 students, we understand that part of the challenge for us is to be connective and supportive. It's easier to have silos, it's easier for year levels to move together, roughly 270 per year level. We certainly do a lot of work in those year level systems, but it became obvious to us in the last 10 years that our challenge was to try and find that holistic connection and support. And all big schools really grapple with this challenge in different ways. So The main avenue that we've looked to address this is by instituting 2 years ago something that we call our Positive Futures program. And our Positive Futures program is that once a week our students will meet for a period for 50 minutes, and they'll be put in vertical groupings. So the vertical groupings, you may have a group of 20 students and you'll have a number of year 7, 8s, 9s, 10, 11 and 12s together, and they form a little subset group with a couple of teachers or staff members. Every student is a member of a Positive Futures group. Every staff member is a member of a Positive Futures group. What will happen, obviously, as we work through this process, those students stay together through the course of their time at the college. So year 7 students who may have found it very, daunting to approach year 11 students straight away have a connection because they have year 11 students as you move through there. Certainly with schools that have tried such vertical systems before, the research is telling us very clearly that there seems to be better connection, better support within the school, and there's been some amazing results on less bullying within schools because of the fact that these year levels now get connected via the Positive Futures. We're only 2 years into the program, and I must admit we're 2 COVID interrupted years into the program that's had unfortunately far too much remote learning, but I hold really great hopes that as we move forward as a big college, understanding those challenges, that this vertical Positive Futures system will not only give us another level of pastoral support, but it'll also give us an inbuilt connection between the students. We did a lot of work on this. We visited a number of schools internationally and nationally in terms of what was to work with this, and so we're very hopeful that this will be a great program. Yeah, great question. Yes, we have over the course, and obviously we do a lot of data at which different subjects are more popular. We do a lot of data on how to get better at those subjects. So as we've become more academically successful, there's no doubt that we see more students entering into what we would call a more traditional maths science stream, understanding that English underpins everything. English is the one subject in VCE that you have to do that will count on your VCE certificate and your ATAR. So we're certainly seeing many of our students look towards that traditional maths science. Allied to that also, and this is where the interesting part comes in, that when we look at the data of our students, now we are very lucky, 96% of our students move on to tertiary education. That doesn't mean that the students that don't move to tertiary levels are not successful. It just means that their pathway is taking them to perhaps a TAFE or a trade, and in which case we would think that's successful in terms of their pathway. But as we look at the tertiary sector, we have 96% of our students move to tertiary. And we look very closely at what tertiary courses they enter into. And it's been quite strong over the last few years that the business management and commerce area has been the biggest single tertiary area. But there are, nowadays it's fairly close because many of our students will be looking at biomedicine and medicines and the legal, teaching, and up and coming is the IT, software and IT applications, information technology, which is obvious, I guess, given the changing face of our workplaces and the changing faces of our works. So yeah, if we look at trends, that's where the trend takes us. I would say, however, that at times as a college we are looking to try and diversify from that trend. We do worry that there can be a narrowing of the curriculum, and that tends to come down to personal choice, parental choice, student choice. As a college, what I would say quite strongly is we are looking with great determination to keep that breadth of curriculum. We talked before about students finding their own passion points, about finding their own pathway. Just because there's a trend towards commerce or a trend towards maths science, I would like parents and students to be open to the notions that there could still be career pathways in the visual and performing arts, humanities. I saw recently that there are more CEOs in Australia with a humanities tertiary degree than there are with a maths science tertiary degree. So I think we've got to be prepared to invest in individual pathways by keeping open individual pathways. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah, I think there's a number of facets to that question. Unfortunately, yes, there's been a whole lot of the remote learning, and I say unfortunately because it's not our preferred mode. But what I will say is that our school, as many schools, we transition very quickly and very readily into that.